whatever industry you are in. So in case someone doesn't know what a Google My Business listing is, I just wanted to do a quick explanation. It's just a free listing that helps customers easily find your business. It's where your reviews are housed. You can link it to your website. You can put in your address, your hours are there, phone numbers. It really does a lot of stuff. It's completely free. It's a great way for people to find you. And then the different places that they can find your listing is on things like this. So this is just the one on the left is a close-up of that local 3-pack that I showed earlier. This is for a different search result though. And then if you're searching for a specific company name, the one on the right is usually what you see. This is what's basically called a knowledge graph. And that's what a Google My Business looks like when it's in that form. But then you can also find them on Google Maps as well. That's the main thing for them. That was their original intention when they were created, was for people to find businesses or buildings and get those directions and then be able to drive or walk to them. Things like that. They are only on Google Maps. I believe Apple Maps has their own version. Bing, I believe, pulls from Facebook. So depending on the search engine, there's different things. Bing also has their own version of a Google My Business listing as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And then, so basically for the rest of this presentation, I'm just going over different steps you can take to set up your listing. And then I wanted to talk about how you can fully optimize it so that you get in that map pack so that people can find you. These are the different overview bullet points I'm going to talk about. There's more than just these, but these are kind of the big ones. So the first one we're going to be talking about is NAP, which does not mean sleeping. NAP stands for name, address, and then phone number. It's just initial quick setups that you do. You put in your business name, where your address is, your phone number. And then additional things is also business description, which that is, you're given 750 characters to just tell the world who you are and why they should visit you. You link to your website. The appointment link is if you use a tool like Calendly to set up meetings, or if you just have a contact us page on your website, that's where you would put that, is through the appointment link, so that people can just immediately reach out and get in touch with you. And then right there at the bottom is the GMB short name, which it's a custom URL or kind of like a Twitter handle for your listing. Once you create it, the actual URL is g.page/ and then whatever your short name is. And with that custom URL, you can give that to customers. They can go to it and it will instantly take them to your listing specifically without them having to search for it. One really cool feature is that if you give them that URL and then you do /review, it actually takes them to your listing and prompts them to leave a review. So it's a good tool to put on. I've seen some people putting it on business cards saying, hey, leave us a review here at this URL. And or like a thank you follow-up email that you might send someone. There's different ways you can send those URLs to people, but it's a great new tool. And it is brand new. This just came out last year. I wanted to quick talk about this with the name. This is an example of someone who is doing what's called keyword stuffing, where you can see their name is Pepper Coatings, but then they have filled their name with any and all different search queries that people might be using to find them. And the problem with this is that it does work for a short period of time, because you can see I have an arrow pointing to this suggest and edit. Any Google user can suggest edits to a listing, and it's actually SEOs jobs like myself and other SEOs to find listings like this and either suggest the correct name, which would be Pepper Coatings, or to just full on mark this listing as spam, and then Google reviews it. And if it looks like spam, which this does, it could get removed from maps. You'd have to start over, you'd lose those reviews. So I would just highly suggest avoiding doing this at all costs, just because I don't want people to have to start over and lose reviews. It's a horrible thing to do. Business categories is the next part of the initial setup. And this is kind of the make it or break it for your listing. There are 3,920 different categories to pick from currently. Google's always adding more, trying to fully flesh out and fully understand every different type of business out there. So through those categories, just find the one that best fits you, your business, your industry, and then make that your primary. But then there's also other things you do, you can have up to 20 supporting categories as well. So that this list on the right is a roofing contractor I found online who has roofing contractor as their primary. That's what the little star is. But then all of those other categories, they're their supporting ones. And basically this just helps Google get to understand who you are as a company more. And then once they do that, they start to show you in more of those broader terms rather than just roofing specific in this example. Services, depending on the category that you choose, you may have the option to fill out services or not. The way you tell is when you're logged into your Google My Business listing, on the menu you see on the left-hand side, you would see a little word services. I have it circled in green here. And if you don't have services, you have what are called attributes, which I will touch on that in a couple of slides. But services is a great way to put those keywords into your listing rather than just filling them out on the name and doing stuffing like this. This is where you can list off multiple different services you do, and then you can write descriptions about them, and that's where you would want to put those keywords so that people can find you. And that's a great thing. There's no such thing as too many services, so just go all out when working on this. And same thing, I don't have a slide about it, but same thing with products too. If you sell specific products, you can do the exact same thing with your products as well. Service area is a little different. So this is the local version of the GMB. If you do not fill the local service out or the local area out, I'm sorry, Google basically just goes based on how far away someone is from you when they're searching. But with service area, you can list up to 20 different things. And these things could be towns, zip codes, states, counties, whatever your service area entails. And you fill those out, and then that helps with those location-based searches, especially the near me. Lots and lots of people are doing near me searches. You know, they're like restaurants near me, or a library near Chicago, any nearby keyword. This is where the service area comes into play, because even though Google does try to be local and they do still show whoever's closest to it, by having a well fleshed out service area, your chances of actually getting shown for those results when the person's a little farther away than you exceed, that you'll get them more often. And then, so now I'm going to go on the attributes that I mentioned earlier. Attributes are basically just little check boxes that you can fill out for a listing. This here is an example of, this is a hotel attribute list and highlights. And basically, this just helps Google understand who you are. It helps users understand who you are. And they're constantly updating, adding new attributes. You can see at the top of the list, there is a COVID-19 responder policy. And those attributes are basically asking, do your staff wear masks? Are you taking temperatures? Do you offer online services? Are you on site? Things like that. And a really cool thing about attributes and highlights specifically is, if I go to the next slide here, they actually appear in the search results themselves. So this is that local map pack we saw earlier. You can see for this restaurant, they mark that they don't do dine-in, but they do takeout, they do delivery, they don't do delivery. These do appear on searches, especially for non-restaurants. Those COVID responder ones are showing up more and more. People are looking. I've seen map packs where one listing says that they offer online services and the other two in this map pack don't. And then I've noticed that people are clicking more on the one that actually says that they provide online stuff rather than the ones that don't. So be sure to check in and look at what your highlights and attributes are and fill them out. Because they're not always COVID or restaurant things like this. Sometimes it's just like, are you women-led? Are you like racially friendly? Do you serve veterans? Do you employ veterans? Things like that. It's just Google wanting to understand who you are as a brand more. And then the Q&A section of a listing, this appears on every listing, and it's that little question and answers that I am pointing to with the arrow. This is without a doubt the most underutilized feature on Google My Business today. Not many people use it. Not many people, business owners, check to see if people have asked questions, because you don't get like email alerts that somebody has asked a question. It's just something you kind of have to check on. But essentially the way it works is anybody can go to your listing and ask you a question. And then the other side of that is anybody, whether they're the business owner or not, can answer that question, which is why you want to be on top of it. You want to be the person answering those questions. But this does not mean that you have to wait for someone to ask the questions. I actually have found a strategy that works where you as the business owner can go in and ask those commonly asked questions you get. Those questions where somebody asks it and you've answered it 100 times. You don't even have to think, you just automatically have the answer. You yourself can go in, ask that question, and then answer it yourself. And that is perfectly fine. I've recorded a conversation. Somebody presented this strategy to a Google representative asking if this was what's termed black hat SEO, which is essentially, black hat just means anything that's not good, anything that could be considered wrong. And the Google representative, after hearing the strategy, said, no, that sounds like a perfect idea that would work just fine. And so this has Google's seal of approval. So I'd highly suggest start thinking about what are those questions that people are asking you, and then go in and ask and answer them yourselves. One cool thing about questions and answers with a Google My Business is every question and every answer can get upvoted. The upvote just looks like the Facebook like button, but after a question and answer gets enough upvotes, there's no specific number. Sometimes I've seen it happen with 3 upvotes, sometimes 5. I can't give you a solid number. It might even be more than that for you. But after a certain question gets enough upvotes, it actually will appear on the listing above the Q&A section, and it will be a prominent displayed. Here's a commonly asked question. Here's a well-voted answer. So that is something to keep in mind, and anybody can upvote it. So you could write the question yourself, you could answer it, you could then go in and upvote it. If you have friends or family or coworkers or employees, you could have them go in and upvote it as well. It doesn't matter who upvotes it, it just has to be a Google user. So that is something to keep in mind as well, to get those commonly asked questions to prominently display on your listing. The instant messaging feature with Google My Business, this is also something that's fairly new. It started off kind of slow, and then they slowly started rolling out to more and more business industries, business categories. Essentially what this is if you are the business owner, you can download the Google My Business app onto your phone, and then you can turn on messaging. When you do, when somebody visits your listing on a mobile device, a phone or an iPad, they will have this little message button appear in the little circles where they could call you or get directions or website. And essentially it's exactly what it is. It's just a direct message to you, the business owner. And then based on the frequency of how often you reply, as you can see at the bottom, Google actually tells the users that this business owner typically responds in a day. And this we've noticed with some of our clients, they have gotten leads from this. People not liking to do phone calls. Some people nowadays don't like traditional phone calls. They prefer text messages, or they just didn't want to go, searching through a website. They just like, I just want a quick and easy answer. Can I get an estimate? Can I get your services? This messaging feature is a fantastic tool for that. Review management. This is a very important part of Google. Like I said, all of your Google reviews are housed in your listings. So you want to be sure that you're keeping up with them. Honestly, it is best practices to reply to every single review you get, even the negative ones. You know, just be very professional and just be like, we're sorry, we pride ourselves on good services. Is there anything we can do to make it up for you? You know, just nice, professional, courteous response all the time. We've also found that it is best to, at a minimum, try to get 1 to 2 new reviews a week. And I know that can be difficult for some businesses and some companies, depending on what your industry is, where you're located. That's also a good thing where the GMB short name that I mentioned come in. I actually have a URL example of the Art Unlimited one right now. If you were to search this URL right here, it would actually take you directly to our listing and prompt you to leave a review. Not saying you have to do that. But a question we get asked all the times is, what happens if we get a spammy review, or we get a review that is clearly not meant for us? And so there is a way to dispute reviews. So in this example, this is just a single star review with no actual review. It's just the rating. But sometimes I've seen a roofing contractor get a review saying the takeout food delivery service was awful. Clearly that has nothing to do with them. It is very easy to dispute and remove those reviews. All you do is, when you are logged into your listing and you're looking at your reviews, there's these little 3 dots next to the review. You click those, flag is inappropriate. You're then prompted with a screenshot in the bottom left asking you what's wrong with this review. Once you flag it, Google takes action. They review the review. It might take a couple of flags. So I would suggest having a couple of people, a couple of different Gmails, I should say, go in and flag it themselves, because anybody can flag a review, whether they have access to the listing or not. They can just find you in a traditional search, look at your reviews, and then if they find one that's inappropriate, they can flag it as well. Usually what happens is it can take a couple of weeks, depending on how busy Google support is. This is a full-time 24/7 job for Google support, is disputing these reviews. So patience is key, but also I understand that sometimes you just need that review gone. There is, after you have flagged it, there is a form you can fill out. There is no specific link for the form. Typically just go to the Google support webpage, and then they have a little search bar. You can search disputing, removing reviews, or they can have like a contact us immediate thing, and that usually prompts the form as well. Once you have filled out the form, Google support immediately looks at your review, and they typically get back to you within 24 hours. I will say though, you do want to make sure you are flagging it first. They will not take action unless the review has been flagged. And another thing to keep in mind is the main thing Google support looks at with reviews in terms of removing them is it clear this is not an actual interaction with a representative from the company? Google is very much about making sure everybody's voice can get heard. So if it is a legit bad review, this person had a poor interaction and he left a poor review, depending on what is written in that actual review, Google may decide to keep it, saying this is a valid review. Usually if you get these ones, like in this example here, where there's no review, just a rating, those are usually ones, since there's absolutely no proof this person had any contact with you, Google will take the review down fairly quickly, I have noticed. So then I wanted to talk about images. Images are growing more and more important in every form of marketing, but especially digital. I'm sorry, I have a dry throat. I'm gonna take a quick sip. And so when setting up a listing, there are 2 photos you need right off the bat. That is your logo, and that is a cover photo. These are the 2 photos that get prominently displayed on a listing. But then after that, you can go in and you can add different types of photos. Typically, I say show photos of what your building looks like from the outside, especially in different seasons. You know, some buildings up in northern Minnesota can look different when they're covered in snow, you know. So be sure that you're showing pictures of what your business looks like in the summer, in the winter. Show what it would look like to a new user just walking through the door. What are they going to see? Who are they going to see? You can do photos of your team at work, or just general photos, and you know, just general photos. You can also add videos. Videos are actually a great idea to add to any listing. They help show potential customers what makes you different. You can easily explain your products to people. You know, if you have good commercials or TV advertisements, you can place them on here. And videos are actually becoming great for SEO. It really boosts user engagement with websites and with listings and just everything in general. There actually have been multiple studies by different marketing companies that show that by having videos, whether on your website or on your listing, are tied directly to a significantly increase in conversions or leads or sales for your company. So I would think about keeping videos. Typically, there are no regulations on videos. Some people recommend that you keep the videos under 30 seconds, but I have seen videos that are longer than that. So just kind of be wary of how long the video is before uploading it to your listing. Sometimes Google might just say it's a little too big. The file's a little too big, which just means maybe you have to shorten it down a little bit or go with a different video. One thing is, how many images and videos is too many? The answer is there's no such thing as too many. This graph right here that we're looking at is from a study that was done around this time last year, where they took a pool of 1,000 different listings from multiple different industries, and basically they looked at how many monthly customer actions, so you know, calls, direction visits, direction requests, or website visits, does a listing get based on the amount of images. And so you can see for a website that had one image, they had a logo, they're getting on average every month 12 website visits, 3 direction requests, 4 phone calls. And then you can see that slowly progress 51 to 100 photos, you're getting about 102 website visits on average a month. But then if you get over that hump and you get over 100, you're looking at 385 website visits a month. And there is no data going past that. It's typically once you get over that 100 image hump, you're golden. There is no more to do. You can't say, well, now I'm going to go for 200 and double that 385 number. It'll stay roughly the same. Again, this is just the average. So you could get more, you could get less, but typically you want to be sure that you are adding images to your listings. And the best way to fully optimize a listing is through Google Posts, which a Google post is literally like a social media, a Facebook post, but instead of posting it on a social media platform, you're posting it directly to your Google My Business listing. Google Posts last 7 days, unless it is an offer or an event and you can actually set start and end dates. I have an example of an offer on the next slide. But these are also good to target specific areas. So say you want to target a town that's maybe a 20-minute drive from you. You know that because of the local algorithm, you might have a harder time reaching there. You can actually create posts written directly for people in that audience, and that will help Google boost you in searches for that area as well. Typically, I recommend at least a single post a week, because really the main thing you want to look at with Google My Business optimization is weekly engagement. Whether that is every week you're doing a post or every week you're adding a couple of images to get you to that 100 image mark, it really doesn't matter as long as you're doing weekly engagement. And then, like I said, here's an example of the offer. You can actually set up Google specific coupons. So you can put in a coupon code. You could just put a link to a web page, however you want to do it. Set a start and end date. On the right is an example of a couple different offers for a coffee shop and called the bakery. And basically this is a good way to get more people into your door, because then this is a coupon that only exists on the Google My Business, which means that when people come in with these coupons, or if they're ordering something online with these coupons, you know specifically that they came because they found you through your listing. And then that's also something you could do if you have this coupon on your listing. You can promote it in other places just to build more engagement with your listing, to further boost up in the results when people are searching you down the road. So benefits of weekly posts. This might be a little jarring or confusing to look at, but essentially what this is what's called a geogrid. Each circle on this map, it's the exact same map, just a couple weeks apart. Each circle represents a GPS coordinate. And basically what you're looking at here is from 1 to 20, where do you rank in that map pack? Because even though that map pack shows you the top 3, there is a button at the bottom that says view all, and that will show you 20 listings. So this graph is showing you for each grid point where your listing ranks on that map pack for a specific keyword that we've searched. And you can see on the left, the 2 solid ones that's where the location is actually at for the business. That's where they're located. That's their address. And so of course, due to location, they would be number 1 there. And all we did between these 2 differences here is we did a single Google post every week. So we look at 3 weeks later at week 4, and you can see across the entire grid, super far away from their listings, they're starting to rank. You know, in the boxes, you're seeing more 1s, more 2s, more 3s. The long one on the left, you're seeing it was all red X's, which meant that they weren't ranking at all. Now they're ranking 12th through 15th, which is just after doing 3 single posts. So definitely keep that in mind with doing weekly posts, weekly Google posts, that this does work, and it will help people farther away from you be able to find you easier. So some key takeaways I wanted to go over. Remember, Google My Business is absolutely necessary to establish an online presence in today's world. Weekly engagement with your listing is key. Do not just create the listing and then never touch it again. Be active with it. Do those questions and answers. Respond to every review. Get to 100+ images. Do weekly Google posts. Whatever you need to do, do it. And with that, that is the end of my presentation. I will stop sharing my screen and we can open it up to questions.
Tyler, I had a question. When you were talking about the highlights and attributes, I would imagine that Google My Business does kind of generic highlights and attributes that you can go through and check box. Is there one on there that says other, so that, you know, maybe a business can type in a specific highlight or attribute that they feel should be listed that's not necessarily in Google's generic checklist?
At this moment, there isn't an other. Typically, that would be a good place for the Google posts that I talked about, or even a question and answer. You could ask the question, is this business so-and-so? Get those upvotes so that it's a prominent thing. People don't even need to look for it. It's just right there. Google is constantly changing what they do with their business listings. So I would not be surprised if, you know, in a few months from now, we see that other option appear.
Okay. Does anybody else have any more questions for Tyler at all? Okay, well, thank you, Tyler, and we will see everybody next week.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again.